श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We saw yesterday that the desire for self-enquiry comes after many, many lifetimes of failed launches of trying to make the finite into infinite. Many, many wrong attempts of making the finite into infinite. What happens? That's why one more life gone, one more life gone, one more life gone, and then finally the understanding takes place. What is the understanding? I don't know something very important, and I'm missing something very big, and I need to understand. This is finally the person gets it. And then Swami Vidyaranya says, in the wake of knowledge, this Maya means Ajnanam is destroyed. This Ajnanam is destroyed in the wake of knowledge, and then what happens as a result? As a result, one is able to be very be one with everything. The oneness is very much there when the Maya in the form of Ajnanam is destroyed. Then the next verse says the following: Advayananda Rupasya Sadvayancha Sadvayatvancha Dukkhita Bandhav Prokta Swarupena Sthitir Muktiritiriyate. Yeah. So, for this one who is Advaya, who is Advaya? This Jiva. The truth of this Jiva is what? Non-dual. Where nothing really matters, nothing should matter. Why? Because I am everything, I am whole, I am free. This is what it should be. So then, Advayananda Nandasya, for this Jiva, who is what? Advaya and Ananda. So this Jiva's Rupa is the same as Paramatma's Swarupa. Paramatma's Swarupa, we read the first verse, Paramatma Dvayanandaha. And here also, this Jiva is what? Advaya and Ananda. Same. Both are same. What we call God, Ishvara, is non-dual, and then of the nature of limitlessness. What we call Jiva cannot be dual. If Ishvara is non-dual, then where is the room for Jiva to be separate? Jiva is not separate at all. Non-dual means there is nothing other than this. And so the Jiva is non-separate, and so the Jiva is also non-dual. Ananda, limitless. So if Paramatma is Ananda and Jiva is limited, then there will be two things. That also is not allowed. So the Jiva is also what? Limitless. Jiva is joyful, Paramatma is joyful. In fact, since Bhagavan has entered the Jiva, so to speak, There is no way the jiva can be dual, fragmented, sad, etc. But still one can say, jiva may not be sad. You may say jiva is not sad, but this is not speaking to my experience. What is my experience? Not only am I miserable, I am misery incarnate. I am an embodiment of misery. So, just like the weather today. And so, I am the embodiment of misery. I am despondent. I am discontented. And whatever I want, I am not getting. Whatever I am not wanting, I am getting. And so, you may say, I am the whole, but it doesn't speak to my lived experience, which is what? Sorrow. Some sorrow or the other, which is what? Samsara. And so here, very beautifully in this verse, is pointed out, Advayanandasya, Advayananda Rupasya, for the one who has this Advaya Rupa, Ananda Rupa, Dukkhita. Dukkhita means sorrow. Where is this sorrow coming from? Sadvayatvam. Sadvayatvam hi dukkhita. Sadvayatvam means thinking that I am in duality. For the one who is non-dual and who is of the nature of unbridled joy, the sorrow comes from mistaking oneself as subject to duality. Sadvayatvam. Why does one mistake oneself to be Sadvaya when one is Advaya? Very simple. Ajnanat. Because of Atma Ajnanam. The teaching is not going in. That's all. The teaching is not going in. And then even if it's going in, one is in the process of knowing, it has not gone in completely, and therefore there is Sadvayatvam. Sadvayatvam also means living amongst what one thinks is many. So, Advaya means if I was somewhere in a cave, this is what the jiva thinks. This is not true. But the jiva thinks, if I am somewhere by myself in a cave, nothing bad will happen and I don't have to deal with bugs, or as Pujya Swamiji would point out, bugging people. Neither bugs nor bugging people I have to deal with. I can just be in a cave. Yeah, I went to Ladakh some time back, and then what was that? I was offered a cave. Yes, I was offered a cave. Please come. It's a 2-bedroom cave. And it has plush carpets. There is even a kitchen area. It was just a raised rock. That's all. That's the kitchen area. And then one side there is the double glass. So on the cliff side, so you can watch this 5-star cave, really. And they said that for a small fee, the Swami who offered me his cave said, for a small fee, you can have cooking gas delivered every month. You can have some basic provisions. I mean, you can't get you can't get Mexican food or something. You can't order on whatever you can DoorDash. There is no cave dash, okay? And so you can't order anything gourmet, but rice, dal, vegetables will be supplied to you. And then you can just cook, sit, meditate, write. So I said the calling for that has not yet come. Actually, I would have been interested, but he told a story. He had occupied that cave for a number of years, many, many years ago. And then he had this habit of finishing his dinner, and after finishing his dinner, he would take out all the leftovers. Some leftovers would be there and put it outside the cave, and in the morning it would be gone. Hyenas, raccoons, whatever it was. And then one day he forgot to do that, and even though he had the other side also has a lock and a key and everything, he had locked the door, but some wild animal came in. He pretended to be dead, and it was breathing all over him. It hadn't brushed its teeth, and it was just a big creature. He could tell by the way it was panting and surrounding his body. He could tell it was a very big creature. And then finally it went away. To this day, we don't know where there is another opening. So then he said that was the last time he forgot to leave the leftovers out. As long as he left the leftovers out, it never came back again. So when I heard this story, I said, keep the cave to yourself. Don't give it to me. So anyhow, so if you are sitting in a cave by yourself, Vasishta Gufa, so many gufas are there near Rishikesh, Shivananda Gufa, all these things are there, all these guhas are there. If you are sitting in a cave, perhaps you don't have to deal with Dvaita, duality. You don't see anybody, you don't hear anybody, and then you can be okay. That is what the jiva can tell himself or herself. But here I am surrounded by Sadvaya, I am surrounded by duality. Wherever I look, there is one more annoying person. Another place I look, there is another person. And so this is what causes sorrow. Mistaking the Jagat with numerous names and forms and not seeing the Advaya and not seeing myself as Advaya is the cause of sorrow. Bandha Proktaha, he is going to say. This is called bandha. This is bondage. Making duality out of non-duality is bondage. What is the reality? Non-duality. My reality is non-duality. But then what about all these other people? We have to learn to see them first as a form of Bhagavan, as a manifestation of Bhagavan, and then later on learn to see them as an extension of oneself. It is a two-step process. First you Ishwaraize the Jagat, see everything as Ishvara and everyone as Ishvara. Start with the most annoying person. See them as Ishvara and then the rest of it is easy. And then what happens? Then we have Advaya, and then we have Advaya at least on the level of understanding. Everything is Bhagavan. That itself is, and also I am the same Bhagavan. That itself is what? Advaya. But if this is not done, if this understanding is not there, Advaya deteriorates into what? Sadvaya. And this seeing many in the place of one is the cause of bondage. Bandhaha proktaha. It is known as bondage. Why? Because suddenly I find myself small. I am not all. I am not anything that I objectify. I am everything separate. I am separate. Jagat is separate. Ishvara is separate. Jiva is separate. I am alienated. I am unfree. I am bound. I am sad. I have all these longings. So this is what is the cause of misery. Okay, this I know already. What is new? Tell me the cause of liberation. Okay, he will tell you, don't worry. So here, Swarupena Sthitihi. Sthitihi here means abidance. Abidance in one's own Swarupa, in one's own nature. What is one's own nature? Don't say I don't know, it was already there. Advaya, Ananda. Abidance in one's nature as Purna, Advaya, Ananda, Paramatma, Muktihi iti iryate. This is known as freedom. So both bondage and freedom are given on a platter. Please choose which one you want. What is the cause of bondage? Duality is the cause of bondage. This is something that is talked about in the Upanishads also. Udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. The one who makes a difference between oneself and another, which is what? Like the edge, the difference is so small. The difference that I have made between myself and another is as thin as the blade of a razor. Razor blade thin difference I have made between myself and another. And what is that? That itself becomes a cause of fear. Fear is bondage. Anxiety is bondage. Fear is bondage. And so Udaram, and this is Taittiriya Vakya. Udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. And the Brihadaranyaka also has another Vakya, Dvaitadhi bhayam bhavati. The cause of fear is duality. And in the Shastra, samsara and bondage are seen from two standpoints. The bondage is tackled from the standpoint of shoka, sorrow, or bhaya. These are two, bhaya means what? Fear. These are two stubborn and very difficult emotions. They are well entrenched emotions. Either one is dripping in sorrow or one is taking flight in fear. So these are very well entrenched emotions, and they have a kind of a chronic quality to it because of ajnanam. And as I have said before, the chronic quality is because of layers and layers of layers which haven't been interrogated, which haven't been looked into. And also sometimes the thought, when one is stuck in a feeling of victimhood, the thought is, the sadder I am, the more the people will notice and do something about it. They will say, oh, poor thing. How long will they say poor thing? At least. That's why I will move in new circles. So that new people I meet who can tell me what? Ayyo Papa, ayyo poor thing. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, you helpless creature. And everybody wants to reach out. Everybody, naturally is an empath. So then they will help. Then what will I do? I can remain stuck in that cycle. I don't need to get out of that cycle at all. Why? Because I can find new people who can just enable. This is called enabling the victimization. Because I can't stand, so people generally cannot stand to see another person suffer. So they will rush to help, especially if they are studying Vedanta, they will rush to help. But then, this kind of a help may not be useful for that person's growth. We have to see that. This kind of a help may not be useful at all. And the compassionate act would be to empower them to help themselves, rather than rush in to just lift up the person, because that is not of use to them. That is just enabling this bandha, so that they don't have to do anything to move this. And so therefore, sadvayam hi dukkhita. So the sorrow and the misery is because somehow, by some quirk, I have managed to do what even Bhagavan cannot do. What is that? Make advaya into sadvaya. Make non-duality into duality. Even Bhagavan cannot accomplish this. Yay! The jiva has done it. This is the cause of bondage. And then liberation is nigh, means it's very nearby. What is liberation? Abidance in the sthiti. Sthiti means my natural nature. My nature. If somebody argues, my nature is sorrow. My nature is sorrow, it's not happiness, it's not ananda, it is dukkhita, it is dukkha. You have to then ask them just one question. Are you sad all the time? Yes, I'm sad all the time. Are you sad when you are asleep? No. If they are honest with themselves, what will they say? I'm not sad when I'm asleep. So that means what? There is vyabhichara. Vyabhichara means there is a contradiction. What's the contradiction? The contradiction is that there is there is sometimes I am sad, sometimes I am not sad. That is not my reality. If I am not sad when I am sleeping, if I am not sad at certain times of the day, maybe when I am eating something, my favorite dish, or maybe when I am doing something that I like, listening to a Vedanta talk, then the sadness is kept at bay. That shows that the sadness is an impostor. It has descended upon me, it like an eclipse, like Rahu. Rahu is the shadow planet, Rahu, and who is the other fellow? Ketu. One is the head, one is the tail. So this Rahu again sits in one zodiac sign for 18 months. And don't say which is the best zodiac sign for Rahu. They are all bad. Yeah, they all have challenges. Even when Rahu is in a sign of exaltation, gives birth to dictators and the like. So we have to, so these are all ways of understanding. These are shadow planets, and they are there to help us to understand how stubborn our shadow personality is. These are our own shadows. If we call them our own shadows, will we look at them? Never. That's why we give them astrological names and stories. Rahu, Ketu. Then we say, okay, it's not me, it's Rahu. It's not me, it's Ketu. Then I don't have to feel guilty and bad all the time. So here, Rahu is and Ketu are seen as the ones that eat up the sun and the moon twice a year. When? At the time of the eclipse. How do they eat it up? It's the shadow of the earth falling on the sun, falling on the moon. That is what we call Rahu poetically. But then it has a metaphor, because what happens on the cosmic level is also happening at the individual level. The collective and the individual, the samashti and the vyashti are always in tandem. They are always in conversation. And so here we have a temporary, especially if it's a solar eclipse, we have the more dangerous of the two, because you can't watch it and all these things. So if we have a solar eclipse, then what do we have? A temporary dimming, darkening of the light. And similarly, when the inner Rahu takes over, we have the dimming of non-duality. We just forget. And then it takes over the nature of Ananda. It just shadows the nature of Ananda. It overshadows the nature of Advaya and Ananda. It cannot remove them. Just like Rahu cannot take out the sun, cannot take out the moon. It can only appear to cast a pall over the sun and moon temporarily. Similarly, the sorrow within the heart also obfuscates my nature as inherently problem-free, joyful, without a second, and not in the doldrums all the time. So this is the sthiti. This is my sthiti. In this I have to abide. So the cause of bondage is given. The cause of freedom is also given. And then here, the Dakshinamurti Stotra has a whole verse to this. Rahugrasta divakarendu sadrisho maya samachhadanat sanmatrah karanopasamharanato yo bhut sushuptah puman. Like this. Just like the Rahu swallows up the moon and the sun, similarly, my light, this little light of mine, why don't I let it shine? Because of the inner Rahu Ketu, my own shadow self. Where did it come from? Ajnanam, Atma Ajnanam. It can be removed. I don't have to buy into this miserable being that I am. I don't have to buy into it. Don't subscribe to this sad, sorry person and think it to be you. You know how difficult, if you subscribe to something online, you know how difficult it is to cancel it? Yeah. How to cancel you don't know. And you call them and then they put you on an interminable hold. Half an hour you are on hold. And then after that you look in the website with a magnifying glass. You magnify the website and look where it is. It's almost impossible to cancel. Every month $29.99 is going out of your account. Similarly, it is here also. You subscribe, you buy into the lie, the biggest lie of all, which is what? I am subject to sorrow, I am subject to anxiety, I am sad, and it's because of all these causes. Because of my parentage, I am sad. Because of the weather, I am sad. In fact, there is such a syndrome called SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder. That's okay, you can buy a lamp. Yeah, sit under it. Not a problem. Everything has an upaya. So because of my background, parents, etc., I'm sad. Because of me, because of the people around me, I'm sad. Because I lack this and that, I'm sad. Because I'm not getting the attention that I think I'm entitled to, I'm sad. Because I'm not getting what I think I deserve, I'm sad. These are stories. Stories that we tell ourselves, and they are not just stories, they are outright falsehoods. So once you subscribe to these narratives, very difficult to come out of them. Where do you cancel the subscription? Very difficult. How to cancel the subscription? So therefore don't subscribe at all to begin with. That is the safest way to go. Don't subscribe. Because these lies will come in the guise of truth and they have to be eschewed and kept at bay. The best way to keep them at bay is through bhakti, prayer, puja, and then seva. Seva. You reach out and help somebody else, then all this goes away. So nobody is permanently sad, no, because this is the truth of each person is ananda. So therefore, this dukkhita is an impostor. And then next one we have already done. Avichara krito bandha, that's where we started with. And then now the 6, 7, 8 are going to make this honed even more so that we can get out of this mental formations, sadness, fear, etc. Vidyaranya does not want us to live in these mental formations, and so a series of beautiful verses are going to come, and let us see what they are. First he outlines what it all is, and then he talks about how the bondage takes place and how to come out of it. Ahamityabhimantayah karta sautasya sadhanam manastasya kriyenta bahirvritti kramothite. So, aham iti abhimantayah. Aham iti. Aham means I am. So, aham iti abhimanta. Abhimanta means the thinker, the considerer, the one who considers oneself as what? Aham. No, the one who says I am. Okay? Who is the one who says I am? ahankara. So here the ahankara, the I notion who says what? Aham iti abhimanta, I am. And that I am ... you can supply. I am great. I am wonderful. Nobody has recognized my greatness, that's all. This is the one. And then, so this is the one, this ahankara, karta, asau karta is the doer. The status of the doer belongs to the I notion. This is a fancy way of saying that. The translation should be of this verse, the status I am the doer belongs to who? The I notion, the ahankara. The ahankara owns up the notion that I am the doer. Karta asau. How does the ahankara do that? It has some help. Tasya sadhanam. Sadhanam means what? Instruments. It has some help. So, tasya means kasya. It's very interesting because there is two tasyas. So, one tasya in the first line, aham iti abhimantayah, the one who considers oneself as I notion, and then who is that? Asau karta. This jiva is then the karta. So, tasya sadhanam, kartruh sadhanam, kartuh sadhanam, or jivasya sadhanam. We can take jivasya sadhanam since the jiva is the topic of the first line. So this jiva's sadhanam, this jiva's help comes from many quarters. What is that quarter? From the jiva uses something to get to the place of identifying oneself as karta. And what is that sadhanam? Manaha. Manaha here must not be taken as just the mind, all of it. Manaha, buddhi, and then chittam. Ahankara already is part of the manaha. That's why we can't just take manaha, everything is taken. So the manaha, antahkarana, for this ahankara, the ahankara is the one who owns up the antahkarana. The one who owns up manaha, buddhi, chittam, and all this as me is the ahankara. So the ahankara uses the mind, or rather the mind helps the ahankara to get to the place of you are the doer. It's a very subtle internal mechanism Swami Vidyaranya is talking about. Extremely subtle mechanism and an internal mechanism. And so, ahamiti abhimantayah karta asau, and then that is one sentence. Tasya sadhanam manaha, another phrase. Tasya sadhanam, the helper for this entity, who is that? Ahankara. What does the ahankara say? I am karta. So in this birthing of the ahankara, the minting of the ahankara into karta. The minting of the ahankara, the I notion is simply I. How did it become karta? The mind has its help. It has the mind as its helper. How? We'll see. Manaha tasya sadhanam, tasya kriye antarbahihi vritti. Vritti antarbahihi. Tasya kriye. Kriye dual. Kriya kriye. So, kriye dual, vritti dual. Like harihi, hari, harayah. Both are dual. So, tasya kriye, tasya means who? You can take it as manaha or you can take it as jiva. Both you can take it as. So, the mind, so first line, the aham iti abhimantayah asau karta. First line. So, the one who is the I notion, the ahankara, is now branded as karta or brands itself as the karta. Tasya sadhanam, for this ahankara, there is a helper. What is that? Manaha. tasya sadhanam manah, another phrase. And then tasya kriye, tasya means what? For this mind, there is two kinds of thought forms. Two kinds of thought forms. The mind is the instrument of action, and how is the mind expressed? In the form of two thought forms, vritti. Vritti cannot be properly translated. It's better to call it vritti. Thought form, mental formation, all that doesn't quite cut it. Vritti. Better to learn to say vritti. Vritti is that thought arising in the mind. So here the mind helps in this gain of the status of kartritva buddhi for the ahankara. The mind helps. How? The mind helps by having two kinds, by broadcasting two kinds of thought forms. One is antarmukha vritti, internal thought form. The another one is what? Bahirmukha vritti, external thought form. This is just a list. He's going to go a little deeper into it. It's very fascinating. He's going to explain in little more detail. Antarmukha vritti, internal thought form, and then Bahirmukha vritti. This is just a enlisting of the very, very complicated way of thinking ourselves into karta bhokta. So for this, what is needed? Ahankara is needed. The ahankara owns oneself up as I, and then this ahankara is then gets the status doer. I am the doer. Here, karta, we have to also add what? Bhokta. Either it says I am the doer, or it says I am done in by other people's doings. By my own and other people's doings, I am done in. I am the victim. So in the first instance, I am the agent. I am the agent of action. I am the recipient of the results of action. I am the author. And the other one is what? I am the victim of other people's actions. Very sad. But both these, when you say karta asau manyate, we should also add bhokta also. And the background information that is given is that at the bottom of all this mix-up between the Advaya Ananda Brahmarupa, which is me, and this Sadvaya Dukkhita and this sorrow that is there, what is happening in the background is that there are two different kinds of thought forms that have gone unnoticed. Invisible thought forms, they are there. I can, through, through sakshita, through observing, I can understand them. But for most people who are not at that level of subtle understanding, what happens? They miss it completely. They miss this distinction completely. What is the distinction they miss? Antarmukha vritti and Bahirmukha vritti. And this is very important, as we will see. They miss this completely. Why do they miss it? Again, ajnanam. And the Rahu, the shadow of pain, sorrow, has just enveloped the mind, and they are not able to think themselves out of this. And so therefore, kramaha, kramena utthite. All dual. Vritti, kramena, kramaha, utthite. Utthite means rising. Utthitaha, utthita vritti, utthite vritti. So vritti, two vrittis, rising, how? Kramaha, in succession. First, what rises? Antarmukha vritti, which shines the light on oneself as karta bhokta, which is a imposter, a superimposition. And then Bahirmukha vritti, the external facing vritti, and then the internal facing vritti. So they rise in succession. So what does that have to do with me? How is it bothering me? Let us look at the next one. Antarmukha hamityesha, antarmukha hamityesha, vrittih kartaramullikhet, vrittih kartaramullikhet, bahirmukhedam ityesha, bahirmukhedam ityesha, bahyam vastvidamullikhet, bahyam vastvidamullikhet. So big deal. Okay, now we have two kinds of thought forms, vrittis. What are they? Internal and external. Okay, why should I know this? Now, a little more trivia about the vrittis. What do they do? Antarmukha vritti, the vritti called internal vritti, the inward facing vritti, that's a better translation, the inward facing vritti, what does it do? Kartaram ullikhet. Kartaram ullikhet means underscores, highlights, the vritti shines the light on the doer, objectifies the doer. So, the internal cognition. What is the internal cognition? We already know. I thought. The I thought, what does the I thought do? Shines the light on the doer. Shines the light on the doer. I am doer. How is this cognition taking place? There is a light that is shining. There is a wonderful light that is shining. And that light is called an inner switch. Okay? Except you don't have to turn it on and off, it's always on. So this inward facing vritti highlights the existence of the doer. And then what does the outward facing vritti do? The outward facing vritti, bahirmukha idam iti esha, bahyam vastu idam ullikhet. The outward facing vritti shines the light on what? Idam, this cognition. You see now where he is going. So there are two basic cognitions, even before objects of cognition come and crowd the mind. Two basic cognitions are always there operating. One of it is what? Aham cognition, I cognition. And what is the other one? This cognition. This table, this microphone, this cup, this pot. This cognition, anything that I qualify by the preposition this. So now my question is, what do the I cognition and the this cognition have in common? What do they have in common? Both are cognitions, we can say. But beyond that, they have zero in common. Nothing they have in common. What is I? I cognition, sentient, self-sentient, self-effulgent. And this is what? Insentient. Has to be cognized by the self-sentient one. The object of I cognition is what? You can't even call the object. The subject of I cognition, namely I, is what? Paramananda, Purna, Advaya. Objects of this cognition is what? Insentient. I cognition, always present. This cognition comes and goes. I cognition, self-standing, independent, satyam, is not dependent on anybody else. In other words, if I ask the question, are you here? You don't have to ask somebody, am I here? Correct? Yeah. I cognition, and then what? This cognition. So the I cognition, self-evident. This cognition has to be made evident by the I cognition. That means what? I cognition, sat, this cognition dependent on I, mithya. Anything that I refer to as this is what? Mithya. So in other words, Bahyabhimukha vritti is only highlighting objects of this cognition. The I cognition has nothing to do with whatever is referred to as this or that. For example, you don't say, I am my house. Does anybody say that? Unless something is wrong upstairs. So, nobody says, I am my house. Correct? But if I come to your house and say, what a wonderful house you have, what will you say? Yeah, house should say thank you. I'm not admiring you. What am I admiring? House. Similarly, I'm going for a walk. I see somebody who has a dog, walking the dog. I say, nice dog. Dog should say, woof, thank you. But the owner, who knows very well, I am not the dog, the owner knows that. Still, what does the owner say? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Coming closer still, supposing somebody is wearing a t-shirt, says Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, very nice t-shirt. And then I say, fantastic t-shirt, oh thank you. You see, even though the I cognition has absolutely no truck with this cognition, and the very idea of it is silly. Nobody says, I am my house, much less do they say, I am my spouse, and much less do they say, I am my belongings. This is very clear. This is mine and this is me. This is very, very clear. But still, there seems to be an obfuscation, a kind of a strange mix-up exists. And this is the topic of the Upodghata Bhashya. Upodghata is a fancy way of saying introductory Bhashya for the Brahma Sutra by Adi Shankara. It's called Adhyasa Bhashya. Adhyasa. Adhi asaha. Like a mistake because of a wrong projection. And there he says the, Asmad Yushmad Pratyayayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamah Prakashavat Viruddha Swabhavayoho. So first he says, this I cognition and this cognition, my dear friends, has nothing in common at all. So, one is Vishaya, object. The other one is Vishayin, the one to whom the objects become evident. That means what? Insentient, sentient. And then Vishayanoho, Tamah Prakashavat. One is like, the difference between them, he says, is like light and darkness, which cannot occupy the same place at the same time. Viruddha Swabhavayoho. And this kind, Viruddha Swabhava means what? Oppositional definition. One is dependent, the other is independent. One is self-cognized, the other needs somebody to cognize it. One is sentient, other is insentient. So the I cognition and the this cognition have absolutely nothing in common. They just have different portfolios. The I cognition illumines the I, and the this cognition, what does it do? Illumines everything else in the universe. They would make very good housemates. They don't interfere in one another's things, work. One washes the dishes, the other one dries them and puts them away, and that's it. They don't really look at one another at all. Yet Adi Shankara says this mix-up is possible and happens all the time. Satyanrite mithuni kritya adhyasyanti lokaha. All the people. Naisargiko ayam loka vyavaharaha. In fact, this mistake between the I and the not I, between the cognizer and the cognized, between the aham vritti and the idam vritti, however you want to say, this mix-up is the order of the universe. Every day, because we live our lives in the form of this mix-up. We keep living our lives in the form of this mix-up alone. This whole mix-up is just a mixed-up affair. This is how we go about our lives. We look at the sky and say, oh, blue sky. Is the sky really blue? No. We have done a superimposition, adhyasa. We have projected. We have projected a color which is there in the form of the water and other things on the earth onto the sky. He says it as much. Balaha tala malinadi akashe adhyasyanti. Balaha means people who don't know what is what. Immature people. People who don't know, what do they say? They say space is polluted. Sky is polluted. Akasha, space. Can space be polluted? No. So the air pollution is transferred onto space because of adhyasa. And what does one do? Says space is polluted. Space is totally polluted. And then what? Wonderful sunrise. Adhyasa. Sunset. Adhyasa. The whole Lokavyavahara means all kinds of actions in the universe are what? Based on this superimposition. And what is this superimposition based on? The mix-up of I cognition and this cognition, where the two cognitions can never meet, can absolutely not meet. The two cognitions never ever can meet. They have nothing in common. They are like Navagrahas in a temple. If you have gone to an Indian temple, the Navagrahas, the 9 planets, none of them can face one another. If they face one another, bad things happen. So therefore, they can't, some of them can't handle eye contact with the other one. And so they have to be put either facing one direction or facing away from one another. So these two cognitions, that which cognizes everything around me and that which cognizes me, myself, are like Navagrahas. They cannot face one another at all. They are not even talking to one another. Still somehow the I gets mixed up into this and the this gets mixed up into I, and these two forms of adhyasa we have already seen a little bit. I will just be recounting them again. What is the first one I said? Atmani anatma adhyasa. Atma, in the I cognition, not I mistake. Meaning, mistaking the I for not I. What is I? Advaya. What is I? Ananda. What is I? Purna. And what is it mistaken to be? A sad sack. Yeah. A sad sack of potatoes. Why potatoes? Doesn't matter. That's how it is. Yeah. So I am mistaking myself to be finite. Why are you sad? Because I am mortal. I am mistaking myself to be finite, whereas I am infinite. I am mistaking myself to be subject to death because of this mix-up, whereas I am deathless, birthless, Atma. I am mistaking myself to be limited, whereas I am unlimited, limitless. I am mistaking myself to be subject to every passing notion, whereas I am free of all the notions. I am mistaking myself to be karta, the author of action, and bhokta, the recipient of the results of action, whereas I am neither karta nor bhokta. A footnote here, if I say I am karta, it is a recipe for instant guilt. Why? Oh, I am the doer. In the beginning it sounds wonderful. Who did this? Me. I did this. Everybody see. I did this. Oh, you did a rotten job. Oh no. Guilt sets in. Misidentifying myself as the karta is a recipe for guilt. Misidentifying myself as bhokta, the recipient of other people's actions, is a recipe for hurt and sorrow. What do you want to do if you want to be sad? Tell yourself the whole world is against me. Simple. Yeah. Instant, we have instant noodles. We have instant, rasam even has come. Okay? Just add water, they say. And then we have instant all kinds of things. So a recipe for instant sadness, say, I am the victim of everybody's wrath. I am the victim of everybody's actions. What are these actions? Omissions and commissions. Why did they do this? It's an act of commission. They should not have done this. Why did they do this? And then omission. Why did they not do this? They should have done this, but they did not do this. So it is a omission. Omission and commission of other people causes sorrow, hurt, anxiety. My own omissions and commissions is an instant recipe for feeling guilt. So this guilt and hurt is the bread and butter of samsara. This is what we have to remove. And Swami Vidyaranya has an ingenious recipe for the removal of this guilt and hurt through recognizing the subtle internal mechanisms of the I thought getting mixing itself up in what? This cognition. I cognition and this cognition don't even look at one another, but by somehow, because of maya, ajnanam, aghatita ghatana patiyasi maya, this clever maya makes some magic, and then what? Instantly I am sad. And so here, what does it say? So these two are the I cognition, which is the internal cognition, objectifies karta bhokta, and the external cognition in the form of this thought lights up all the external objects. The objects are not me. I am the lighter upper. I am the subject. I have to know. More we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.